All right, good morning. I want to welcome everyone here. We want to make the most of our brief time together this morning. And so we're going to jump right into things. I'm going to say a prayer and then briefly introduce Wendell. And then I've got some questions that I'll ask him that will prompt the sharing of Wendell's story. And then we want to have plenty of time for Q&A as well. If you're here in person, you have in your chair a copy of 3 documents, 2 written by Wendell and 1 written by, and they give you further details. So some of that we'll hit here in just a moment, and some of that you can read on your own and may prompt some additional questions. So let me pray for us. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we are so grateful to share this space together. Thank you for those who are with us online, for those who are here in person. We thank you for our brother Wendell. We thank you for the ways in which you have led him and for the opportunity to learn from his story, who you are and who we are, who we are called to be in the kingdom. We pray this in the name of Jesus. All right, so we're very thankful to have Wendell Gunn with us. This is part of 4 Sunday mornings that we're spending devoted to Black History Month. Debbie has spent the last couple of weeks with us. This morning, we'll hear Wendell's story, and then next Sunday, Gail will be back up with some reflections, and Elaine Lectrick will join us, sharing a little bit out of a book that she wrote doing research on racial reconciliation, racial justice in the South. So 4 really powerful Sundays. So Wendell, we're so thankful for your being with us today and spending this time with us. So let's start at the beginning. You grew up in northern Alabama, small town, Tuscumbia, and tell us what was life like for you in that part of the world growing up?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer because I have a question back compared to what? It was the only life I knew at the time, and it was the way things were. And I've never been a boat rocker, at least not intentionally. So we essentially stayed in our lane, if you understand. If you know that. Trouble was part of where we grew up. It's a farm community. My family worked a farm. Later on, we bought some land and worked our own, but most of the time we worked for other farmers as laborers, and went to school during the rest of the year. Segregated schools, of course, but had no idea how the others. I, as a child, had no idea what was going on the other side of the track. So, as far as I was concerned, and even now, as far as I was concerned, we had a good life growing up in Tuscumbia. You know, if you've never been free, well, if you've been free and then you're under bondage, that's gotta be tough. But if you've always been there, you can easily get used to it. And so today you're going to hear a story about a young man of immense courage. And I'm here to tell you it's just not true. It didn't happen that. Most of it is probably because my parents named me Wendell, which means wanderer. And I've wandered a lot in my life. And the thing that has driven me more than anything else was not courage and conviction or desire to change, but curiosity about what's around the next corner, often without regard to what was around the next corner. And I guess the rest of it will come out in questions.
Okay, so powerful statement there. Essentially, if you've never known freedom, then the life that you're living seems just fine. You don't miss it. Yeah. So eventually you make your way. So let's move forward from Tuscumbia to Nashville and out of Nashville just before you register at the University of North Alabama. What happened there?
Well, Marshall Keel, you heard of that. He was in town to conduct the gospel meeting, and he brought a couple of boy preachers with him. And it was 2 weeks, and I was 11 years old at the time. At the end of that, I got kind of excited about it. I went back to Nashville with Brother Keel to attend Nashville Christian Institute. Mama wanted to preach. Nowadays, Mama would have better preach. But that wasn't the case at the time. So she was happy to send me off with Brother Keel. But life was kind of tough for an 11-year-old boy away from home at a boarding school. So I've been there 6 weeks, in the 6th grade, and I've had enough. And I packed my bag and I slipped out the back, went down to the bus stop, took it down the town, got the Greyhound bus. Yes, I did. And so during that 4-hour trip, neither Mom nor the people at NCI knew where I was. And I'm sure they were scared to call her because they didn't want her to know they didn't know where I was. I got home and told them, I said, call them and tell them I'm not coming back. Well, I'm going to move quickly because I know we got a short time here. So during the interim time, living in Tuscumbia, I got involved with a rock and roll band. I was a singer, played the trumpet, played the piano a little bit. Mom tolerated it, but her Christianity didn't like it. And we found that I couldn't work at home. I decided to. When I got a chance to audition for record or to make record, Mom said, "That's it, that's it." So I quit the band, and because I was a singer, and I went back to Nashville Christian Institute. Stayed there 3 years, graduated. While I was in Nashville, decided to go to Tennessee State. Because my brother was there, and that was just that was what that was about. Never considered truly going to David Lipscomb at the time because I'd already heard that Elvis Claypool said that Black people would come there over this dead body. So I didn't even look at David Lipscomb. So in the summer I worked. But in the summer of 1963, my job didn't last all summer, so it looked like I was going to be tough to afford to go back to Nashville. But in the news, there was Vivian Malone, who went to the University of Alabama with hundreds of federal marshals and George Wallace standing in the door. And Vivian Malone attended there successfully. And about 2 months after that was when it first occurred to me to do something, because I was at a friend's house, saw a catalog for Florence State College on the table because their father and mother both worked at Florence State College.
Oh, okay. Which is now called
University of North Alabama. So I'll go back and forth on it because I'm still a Florence State College graduate. And I have a local recruiter. Somebody made it for me special.
The University of Alabama was being integrated at that time.
Yes, and
So
so,
you figured you'd apply to.
so I figured I would apply to UNA, to Florence State. I thought that when Wallace failed at University of Alabama, but that meant Alabama schools, Alabama colleges, that was the first colleges that, so I figured that I should go there. So I just went up, walked in with my jeans and sneakers, there for an application. And the young lady said, for whom? And I don't know, for me, she disappeared. And then a more mature lady came out and said, may I help you? I said, I want a catalog and application. She disappeared too. And I waited, I must have been 10 or 15 minutes. I said, I'm in the wrong place. But anyway, what happened was, registrar walked out. And he said, come with me, young man. And he walked me down the hall into the president's office. Take place with nice paneling and all that stuff. I've never been in such a place. I said, gee, this is the way they vet students. I've been at Tennessee State for 2 years. I never saw the president. Well,
So your first day on campus, you're in the president's office.
I'm in the president's office being told that he doesn't have the authority under Alabama law to admit me. I said, okay. And kept talking. He said, but I'm sure, I could only let you in pursuant to a federal court order. And I'm sure that if you sued us, you would win. I didn't understand the implication of all of it, but I knew I wasn't coming back. I'm scared to go home and tell mom and dad where I did this plant.
So they didn't know.
No, I just walked over there from that book and went into the registrar's office. And so when I got home, checking my leaf on the tree, I said, Mom, I'm gonna have to tell you this before I yell. When I got through, she said, do you want to go? I said, Mama, you didn't hear me. She said, do you want to go? I said, I gotta go somewhere. She picked up the telephone, she called Fred Gray. You guys know who Fred Gray is, right? Fred Gray, civil rights lawyer who was a lawyer for the Montgomery bus boycott, and a Church of Christ preacher, and a graduate of National Christian Institute.
Were you at
10 years before I graduated.
How did your mom know?
My mom knew it because she was one of the church ladies who used to help raise money for Southwestern Christian College. And Fred Gray was the chairman of the board of trustees at Southwestern Christian College. And Fred Gray came to lectureships at National Christian Institute, so I knew who he was. The other ministers actually criticized Fred for getting involved in politics. To us students, he was a hero, But I mean, we didn't talk about much, but he was a hero. So she knew him, and so she knew him. I don't say she was very close, but there were lots of church ladies across the country who helped to raise money for that, and my mother was one of them. And so she called Fred. After he talked to her, she said, my boy wants to go to this school, and they said, no, put him on the phone. And Fred said, you want to go? I said, well, you can't afford it. Lawsuit, I'm trying to get out of this deal. And he said, I didn't ask you that. So I asked you if you want to go. I said, that's where I got to go someplace. We'll go ahead and apply. And when they tell you no, send a letter to me.
So you were committed to that point.
Not yet. Not yet. But my and I met with the president of college a couple of times in between, because I ordered a transcript to go there, and we went over there, went through my transcript to see what courses to transfer. Look, I'm in the days here, but they are busy. And I think God must have talked to Mama. He must have whispered in Mama's ear and said, Maddie, let the boy go. I got this. I've been saying for 50 years. I wish he'd said something to me. You know? But anyway, let's see how it works. So you know what I got ready to get I needed my transcript from Tennessee State. It's time, but I don't know about this time. I needed my transcript to go in mine to give to Fred so he could present it to the court. And I happened to be on the campus again talking to the president. You know, and I told him that I'm waiting for my transcript before we get our package together. He said, we got your transcript today. I'll have somebody copy it for you and you can use that. I didn't know what he was doing. Is he trying to help me? And I only asked that question 10 years later. I took it, and that's what I did. Anyway, so we filed it. So I filed the application. And as soon as I filed the application, the phone started. The bad guy, recall. I'm the things that have rifles pointed at my head if I showed up at that school. Others who were just angry because these outside agitators trying to upset our way of life. But the second caller wasn't threatened. Not say the second one because both called off. Each called off. Because he wasn't threatening, he was just upset. So I talked to him and said, but sir, I'm not upset. What are you gonna do? The kid talking to this man, you're not gonna lose anything. And eventually he just hung up on me. I never hung up on him, never did. Anyway, let's skip a little bit, just a little bit more, but I did have a bad dream one time. I still hadn't decided that I was actually going there. But our court case lasted 10 minutes and a court order. In any case.
But you had this bad dream.
That's right, I had forgot about the dream. This happened because I woke up at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock this morning. I haven't been asleep since, so I'm in bad headspace here. I'm sorry, I'm surprised the story's coming out at all. I was bandaged up on crutches. And the prequel to that must have been that I had been beaten up by somebody. And a voice from behind me said, we warned you. Now we're coming to finish. Then I woke up in a little bit of a sweat. And I said, they're gonna shoot me, whether I go or not, just because I stirred it up. I said, well, if that's the case, all I have, look, the only decision I have to make is which way I want to be going when they shoot me. And believe it or not, that was the night that I decided definitely that I was going. Still, but I said, now, they are registered. I know it's registered. After I registered, there were no more phone calls. No more. And I'll tell you a couple of crazy pieces. I signed up, I was changing my major from French to chemistry as I entered that school. What was I thinking? I just had my first chemistry course last year, but I've been scared of math and chemistry all the time. And I think that's why I said, what's that? I took chemistry, calculus, and chemistry, calculus, and physics. But that only added up to 12 hours. I needed 13 hours to be a full-time student. And I was in there by myself with the registrar and president special time to register me. And I looked over there and I saw a 1 hour course, choir. So I chose choir. It was 13 hours. And years later, I asked my wife who saw a picture of the choir with me standing up here, peak. I said, what was I thinking? But I was in the choir from day one.
And you guys got to sing at special events.
Oh, yeah, okay. Still on the way back. A couple of months in, anyway, during the first semester, they had Governor's Day. And when Governor Wallace came to give a speech on the campus, and the choir sang that day. The song was "I Wonder as I Wonder." That had to be one song. Well, there was a soprano solo and a tenor solo. And guess who had the tenor solo? I did. I sang the song on that stage with George Wallace at 10 feet back. I still say, what was I thinking? What was the choir director thinking? Who put somebody up to having me sing that solo? But I sang that solo. Funny thing happened at the end of that. Whenever George was stepping, Wallace was over there talking to important people. And the students who wanted to say hello. He looked over and saw me, I was standing away. And he walked away from it, walked over to me and reached to shake my hand and said, good job. I had an out-of-body experience. And I just said, thank you, sir. Now, am I still answering the question you asked?
Yeah. So we only take 2 or 3 more minutes and then open for Q&A. So
okay, I think we can do that.
So I do want you to tell us eventually what your relationship with that university is now.
Oh.
How they honor.
Okay. Almost, the other students and I didn't talk to each other because we didn't know what to say to each other. But in the spring, Honors Day came, and they did academic honors and stuff. And I went because I sang in choir, otherwise I avoided convocations and being on school uniform camps at night. But it turned out that I had the highest number of points in physics. And I was to receive the Physics Achievement Award. Well, I didn't realize until we got to the end of the description that the physics professor had called my name and said I was going to get that award. Shocked me. I stood up to get it, and an applause began. I lost my composure, and the applause got louder. And sorry. Within a few seconds, that whole gathering was standing on its feet, cheering and applauding. My life on that campus made a 180-degree turn in that moment. And I graduated the following year in May, one day after the graduated. Oh, I forgot to tell you how crazy I was. In the first few days, the dean actually walked me to class, between classes, between classes. And after about 5 days of that, I turned to the dean and said, Dean, I don't want to be conspicuous. I don't want to be the only guy that's walking with the dean. And so I asked him to stop. I don't know what I was thinking. I just didn't want to stand out. So he said, well, be careful. You can't tell when somebody in grade school tries something. I said, oh, okay, I'll be careful. That's religious text.
Okay,
Give it back to you.
tell us about your role with the university now. I mean, a lot of different things happen in between, but
Okay, I'll tell you. Well, I gave you 10 years later, after I left the school, well, first of all, when I went to the University of Chicago, I got great recommendations from I mean, really great. He lied about me. And to get into graduate school. And the president of the college, every time I received a promotion or some progress in my career, he had a good letter. Congratulate me and tell me how proud he was of me. 10 years after graduation, I was named outstanding alumnus of the year based on my career and stuff. And but every few years, I was invited to come back and talk to from the group board. And the year after I graduated, in the spring when I graduated, in the fall, 25 new Black students came to that.
wow.
Yeah. There was one young lady who told me 25 years later that her parents had decided that they couldn't send her away to college. So they couldn't send her to college. But she said, but when you went at the time you did, that meant I could go to college. Wow. And that's now you're going to think one more statement. When you read my story, you're going to read the story. I told you the story that says that I was courageous, social justice warrior is just not true. Nobody who knows me ever accused me of being brave. I didn't play football in college. People get hurt. And I never thought it made any sense to run headlong into somebody who weighed twice I was, going the other way. Never made sense. So I didn't do that. I played it bad. But it's just that I just kept wanting to see what was around the next corner. I wasn't going all the way over the cliff. I just wanted to see what it looked like over there. And after a while, I was over it. And that's it. Curiosity kept me going forward, not courage. But I was so skinny, both my back pockets were in the same place. I'm through.
Okay. And today on that campus, we find your name, right?
You should have brought the picture. There's a, yeah. Yes, they wanted in 2018, the president called me and said, well, we want to name the Commons building the one after you. And I said, you lost your mind. Is it? Did the board lose its collective mind? And I said, is this really President Kiss? Because I said, you only got so many delegates. That's a scarce asset. Why do you want to waste it on an old story? I was trying to say no in as many ways as I could. And, but they insisted, so I came up with my own reason. If there was a good reason to do it, it had to be this, and that's what in that letter that you have that I wrote to the board of trustees. I simply look at that building with my name on it. I said, because it doesn't say anything about me. There are plenty of people similar to me, but it says something about the school and its continued commitment to serve the whole community, excluding none. And I said, I don't mind being part of that statement. So that's the bill. It says something about the school, not about me. I've been trying to keep a low profile all my life and failed miserably.
Okay, let's take a few questions. We've got about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. So I see Dale's hand and Sarah's hand. So Dale.
Not a question, but Alan, the board of trustees, but the board of trustees at University of North Alabama.
Yes.
And you have your own apartment.
Well, you know, most of the trustees they have are not too far away. You know, yeah, I'll take a care of the state. So, yeah, president said, well, it's all right. Anyway, I told him that's what I did in the first place. Yes, I have an apartment that's on the campus. It embarrasses me that I have this apartment, but it's very green. And it was a perfect place for me to isolate, turned out. The only perfect place I could think of so I could isolate when I got COVID-19 last October. Oh, by the way, it was a week after I got my booster, and I never had any symptoms. My lungs were clean the whole time, and I was out of the hospital in 2 days. Somebody was taking care of me, just like they were. I tell you, I've been in so many places that you call dangerous over my life and didn't know it until I looked back. That's my curiosity. And I've had such a streak of luck my whole life that I just have to quit calling it luck. It's something else. Those are statistics, because it defies statistics.
Sarah had a question.
Thank you very much for sharing yourself with us today. When I hear you, I hear you're very humble. You talk about, you weren't courageous, you were just curious, those types of, if you were lucky, this communicates a great deal of humility. However, when you were in those moments of making those decisions, whether to apply to college and whether to write a letter to the lawyer, all of these different steps, did you know in that moment that what the broader implications of your actions were going to be or could be? Or did you just...
You mean the implications for such things as others?
Yes.
No. I was a kid.
Yeah.
It took me a while to even understand what had happened. let alone what its implications were. And people, I always rejected people's statement that I was a hero. I said, no, heroes are people like I named hero. But when that young lady told me 20 years after the fact that she couldn't have gone to college at all if I hadn't gone at the time I went, that created an emotional moment that made me feel like, even though I wasn't trying, had an impact. And you'll find out that after Fred Gray, at the end of the ultimate resolution of a local suit that he had fired called Leave Me Maker. What happened for me in Florence in '63 happened for thousands of families in 1967 without them having to file a federal court. So just look up Lee versus Macon or read the letter that I wrote to the president about Fred to ask him to give Fred Gray the congressional, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The impact that he had on releasing all that potential so that people all over blacks all over Alabama could go to school as day students and not incur the cost of travel, some travel.
And isn't that amazing? I mean, even though you aren't necessarily thinking of the larger picture, when you do something that's right, it's good, it's holy, it's just, it's gonna have rippling consequences.
And the funny thing about it, when that suit, you gotta read about that suit. Well, look, you have, I sent a letter that I wrote to President Biden to give the presidential medal of freedom. You have to read that because there were 13 colleges in the state of Alabama at that time, and only 2 that admitted blacks. Most white students could go to college, white students. If you weren't ready to travel 200 miles and didn't live close to one of the 2 black colleges, you just couldn't go to college if you couldn't afford the room and board, et cetera, and travel. Man, if you don't have it, I'll send it to you. I think that the church, I think everybody here ought to read that. This is the Church of Christ preacher. He dedicated his whole life to that. Because of the corporate lawyer, made a lot of money. Instead, difference.
Don't you think the fact that some students back then,
So
don't you think the fact that some students back then could go to college, that has ripple effect that to the descendant until today, like the kids and grandkids has an economic impact.
yeah, the thing about it, you just open that up for the whole family. See, a lot of times when people praise me for being the first black to go to Florence State, and that makes me feel what it makes me think. Because the school was there for 130 years before I went there.
No, but what I'm saying is sometimes I heard the argument that, oh, that was in the past. That has nothing to do today, with the generation of black people today. What I'm asking you, don't you think the fact that those qualified black kids attend college, that has an impact, a negative impact, or let's say economic impact on the kids and grandkids until today?
Well, I'm sure that's true. But my parents didn't go to it. There's plenty of proof that we can overcome the past. by taking advantage of the opportunity that we had. My parents didn't finish high school. And I and all of my brother and sister and I all finished graduate school. And, the potential, yeah, there was potential there. In other words, there was a wealth gap that was created there because people didn't have access to the tools for building that. But there was a lot of potential that was released that day. Funny thing too, not just blacks could go to previously white schools. In the fall, after we beat class, there was black school where my sister was teaching. Alabama A&M, where a number of white students enrolled because that was the closest college to them.
Wow.
So we weren't there. It wasn't that pretty close.
Well, Wendell, our time this morning is up, and we could obviously take much longer, because there's so much more to hear from your story. We're grateful for the time you spent with us here today.
Well, I'm not leaving.
Yeah. Wendell, for follow-up questions, and email him, call him, just a wonderful. Thank you for sharing.